Hey everybody, what's up? It's early morning. We'll say that early Saturday morning. Um, yeah, but I thought I'd do this audio video because, like I said in my on-camera video, my channel, which was my summer channel update, things were going to change around here, and this schedule-wise, and this is obviously part of it. So, yeah, this is why I'm doing it right now. But anyway, let's talk about something that's kind of, you can see the title below. You obviously see the title of the subject of the video on screen, and that is, let's talk about remakes. Basically, people's reaction to remakes and reboots. Now, we know remakes and reboots of franchises and movies and stuff like that. Hold on for a second. Okay, sorry about that, folks. I had to let the cat back in the garage. I think that doesn't seem to fail. Anytime I do something, that happens. um, Hold on, let me get this in position for a second. Here we go. Yeah, that should work just for a moment. Coca-Cola. Very good. But anyway, like I was saying, let's talk about people's reactions to remakes and reboots um, throughout history or recent history. We all know people have a difference of opinion to remakes and reboots. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it doesn't matter what the remake or the reboot is. It's, fans will either people will either find favoritism with it or they will not, and that's understandable. Whether you like it or not, a reboot or a remake is always going to have some kind of mixed reaction or criticism behind it. Um, the reason I talk about this is, next year in 2014, we're going to have, hopefully, because this is the tentative release year for it. 2014 is the tentative release year for it. We're going to have the new rebooted Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, we don't know. I don't know if this is going to be the fifth movie in the original movie franchise's run. But it looks like it's more like it looks more like it's going to be a reboot. And it looks like it's going to be a mixture, if you will, of several of the different versions of the franchise. One of its main influences, probably if you've read through some reports and stuff, is some of its one of its main influences, I should say, is going to be from the 1987 to 1996 original cartoon. Basically, the late 80s, um, mid 90s cartoon. So it's going to draw some inspiration from that. Its obvious dark atmosphere, according to what some people, even my niece has said, is drawing its influence from the original Mirage Studios and maybe from the 2003 series, 2003 to 2009 series. And it, and that's about so far what I think it is. It basically it's going to be a mixture of a lot of things. Now, what's funny about this is a lot of fans have mixed reactions to the movie. Now, obviously, a lot of people are happy the movie's being made and done, but there are two things they don't like about it so far. One, of course, is it's a film by Michael Bay. Well, Michael Bay has some involvement, not total involvement, but some involvement in it. Michael Bay has some involvement, let's just put it that way. And Megan Fox of the Transformer movies 1 and 2, and Jennifer's Body, and possibly Transformers 4 if they bring her back, is going to be playing April O'Neil. Now, the reason people have a problem with that is April O'Neil, and I've mentioned this before when I did a discussion about her. The character is usually, in the eyes of many, is portrayed by an actress that you don't rarely know. She's kind of like, when they cast Superman. Just like with this year's Man of Steel. They casted somebody that's that's a known actor, but not too known, but not too well known to be Superman, Clark Kent. And they did that with Superman Returns, and they did that with the original Superman. Pretty much, they picked some unknown actor to portray him, if you will, and that person obviously was Superman. He wasn't, there's so and so being Superman. No, that person was Superman. Just like when they hired Judith Hong and Paige Tuco to do April O'Neil in the first, and as far as Paige goes, in the second and third movies. When they hired her on, because when people didn't know who she was. They really didn't know who she was. So, excuse me. So instead of saying something like, "Oh, there's Judith Hong playing April O'Neil. There's Paige Tuco playing April O'Neil." No, they didn't see the actresses. They saw April. As far as they were concerned, that person was April. And that's one of the major flaws they have with the movie. Even though they're excited it's coming out, even though there's some that are excited that it's going to be aimed at an older, more mature audience, if you will, they're not happy with the fact that instead of seeing April O'Neil, they're just going to see Megan Fox as April O'Neil. They're not going to see April O'Neil. If you get my drift. Another thing they probably have some criticism with is Bern Thompson is going to now be Bernie Thompson or Benny Thompson or whatever the name is, and instead of being played by a male, it's going to be played by Whoopi Goldberg. So, yeah, that's another criticism there. It's another flaw, but it's not a major flaw, as they would say with Megan Fox being April. Now you might say, well, what does this have to do with remakes and reboots? Well, speaking of the Turtles, and I mentioned this before, I think, and I'm sure everybody else has mentioned it, the fact is, you got this new movie that's drawing influence from the mid 80s, from the late 80s, from the mid to late 80s to mid 90s original cartoon series, as well as drawing influence from the original comic book source, and the 2003 series, if you will, 2003-2009 series. The reason you have people kind of reacting the way they do is because right now, as we speak, on Nickelodeon, you have the new TMNT series, and it's definitely a reboot. It's definitely a remake. But the problem is, what they see there isn't the fact that it's not a good show, because a lot of people have said, yeah, it's good, it's funny, it's worthy of being a Ninja Turtle show, but there's a major difference here. And that major difference, again, goes back to April. And the reason April is the major difference is because in the new show, she's portrayed as a 16 to 17-year-old teenager. Yes, they could go to a season where she officially becomes an adult and maybe end the show there or go on later on. But the criticism they have about this is not the April that, even though the show's good, this is actually from people that have found it good, that even though the show's good, the one problem is the fact that this is the April they have in there. Yeah, even though a good character, is not the April we know. It's not the April we know. It's not the April we're used to. And when they look at this April and then see the April that's going to be in the new movie next year, which is also being co-released, if you will, by Nickelodeon, they look at this and they say, well, how can this, how, they look at this with confusion, basically, because they know that there's going to be a lot of the new young Ninja Turtle fans that are going to go with their parents. They're going to beg their parents to take them to see the movie. They're going to see it, and they're going to come out wondering, well, wait a minute. The April in there wasn't the April we know in the show. What's going on? And basically, you're going to have the parents, maybe the cousins, the aunts, the uncles that grew up with the Turtle franchise explaining, well, the April they had in there was our April, the original April, the April that was a reporter, not a teenage girl. You see, and you see, that's the one thing they don't understand. Now, I can understand maybe, and I'm sure a lot of people have looked at this as well, I can understand maybe if this Ninja Turtle version is a play off of Turtles Forever. Because remember, in Turtles Forever, it was basically acknowledged that there were many dimensions in many different versions of the Turtles. Okay? There were many different versions of the Turtles. Like Turtles, the prime universe of the Turtles was the Mirage Studio black and white Turtles. The dimension dimension where the 2003 Turtles were, that was their dimension. And that the dimension where the 1980s to mid-90s Turtles came from was their own. So obviously, I think people would say, "Oh well, they'll probably do. Maybe if we will probably they're probably playing off that. They're probably playing off the fact that it's just another dimension. This is just another dimension and another version of the Turtles, and that is true. It could be. That's basically what it is. This is basically just another. It's kind of like what they say in the Sonic comics. It's just another place, another time situation. Basically, another Elseworld. It's just another Elseworld, another dimension of where the Turtles exist. But in this dimension, April's a teenager. But again, this is where the confusion is going to ring in when the movie comes out, because kids know the Nickelodeon, basically owns the Turtles now. The Turtles are Nickelodeon property. So, or Viacom property, whatever you want to call it. So, when the movie comes out, they're going to look and they're going to see a different April, basically an April that, even though played by a well-known actress like Megan Fox, even though she's somebody we know, as being the April that we grew up on, these kids aren't going to know it unless they've gone back and watched the original cartoon series, watched the original live-action movies, and been like, oh, we get it. That's TV reporting April. That's not teenage April. So hopefully, that'll be the only way these kids will have a good understanding about it. Hopefully. hopefully. But again, this is a problem that some people have with remakes and reboots. Basically, you take characters, established characters, and you reboot them and remake them into characters that, even though it's still the same character, it's not. I mean, heck, you take a look at Donatello. They basically make Donatello having a. They basically have written Donatello and maybe April having a crush on each other. Hello? That's never happened in any of the other Turtle shows. I mean, we know, okay, Michelangelo obviously has had a crush on April and all that, and so have all the other Turtles. But, come on, honestly, the point is, you've never had a Turtle or even, you never had April, if that's the case, directly kind of acknowledge maybe she has some feelings and attractions towards one of the Turtles. She's never done that. Now, again, though, that's just that's just one of the reasons why people don't like certain franchises being rebooted in the ways that they are, because sometimes the studio that helps reboot them will sometimes reboot them in a way that doesn't make sense. And again, like I say, I'm not trying to say the show isn't good. It is. It's a good show from what I've seen. I've seen some clips. I've seen some episodes. It's a good show. But it's more along the lines of it's not the Turtles a lot of us have grown up with, and the fact is it's not them. It's not really them. I mean, it is them, but it's not really them, and most importantly, it's not really April that's there. We're not used to seeing that April. We're not used to seeing a teenage April. We're not used to seeing a teenage Casey. We're not used to seeing a teenage Karai. You kind of get the idea. We're not used to it. And we're not used to the fact that April, from what we understand, is going to be the central plot or the central theme of the plot in the future. I mean, we have always understood, she's got captured, she's got to get rescued. I mean, we've understood that there have been some episodes where she's been the central focus of the plot. The Catwoman from Channel 6 is a good example. April Fools, the Queen of Atlantis, if you will. We've all seen that. Engagement Ring from 2003, from the 2003-2009 series. We've all seen that. We all know that she has been the central focus. She's even been the central focus of six issues of her own comic book spin-off by Archie Comics. So we know this. I mean, she was even the central focus in Archie's comics special, where she was turned into a Ninja Turtle temporarily, with a white bandana and all that. And I think even in the IDW series, where she was temporarily put into that situation. But again, the point I'm trying to make is, even though she was the central focus of some of those that I mentioned, she was not the main focus throughout the entire series. And that's basically one of the throw-offs here of the series in some people's eyes. Now, I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying there's a lot of us out there that are not used to that. I mean, we're used to seeing April, and this is one thing. I'll give credit to the show that they're doing. We're used to seeing April being, nowadays at times, being more of an ass kicker, someone that can go out and take care of herself. And I like the fact that they are showing Splinter trying to train her to be part of the team, to defend herself. But again, we don't know what's really going on here. And if this leads to, again, a similar storyline to where they find out, hey, we're not the prime universe, we're just one of many universes, and in most of the other universes out there, April's a grown-up woman. Can you imagine if they did something like that, and the teenage April saw herself as a grown woman, and a majority of the multi-universes, and probably thinks to herself, well, if all my other versions of me, all these other multi-universe versions of me are grown-ups or grown up, why am I a teenager? I would be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if they would do that, but we don't know. But the point is, not a lot of people are used. Not a lot of people are used to seeing characters like that. But you see, Ninja Turtles isn't the only thing either. They're not the only show. They're not the only franchise either. Let me explain. Looney Tunes. The Looney Tunes show that came out a few years ago. I think Doug Walker did this in his Nostalgia Critic editorial, and I responded to it. Basically, he pointed out that not a lot of people were happy with the Looney Tunes show. They're not happy with the concept of the show and still aren't. Basically, the fact they're not happy with the fact that the Looney Tunes are domesticated. They're not happy with the fact that the Looney Tunes, in some of their eyes, are not as funny as they used to be. Heck, they're not even happy with the fact that Lola Bunny is not Lola Bunny anymore. That this is mainly a 360 version of Lola Bunny that's in such a way that you think, yeah, she's funny, but she's not Lola Bunny. Get it? She's basically a grown-up version of Babs with the craziness, the silliness dialed up by 10. Now, don't get me wrong. The Looney Tunes show is good. I've seen, like Ninja Turtles, I've seen clips here and there. I've seen some episodes. I think it's good. I think it is funny at times. And yes, Lola Bunny is one of the major reasons. I mean, heck, Tina Russo is one of the major reasons, too. I mean, the episode which Doug named the number one episode of the Looney Tunes show to watch, and if you don't want to watch anything else, as the number one favorable episode to watch, Customer Service. That episode doesn't just focus on Bugs, it focuses on Tina. And Tina really just, wow, kind of deal. I mean, she really just blows up here. I mean, we get a full-on character worthy of being a Looney Tune in Tina Russo. So, again, as good as all that is, there are still people that are going to complain that this remake, this reboot of the Looney Tunes is not true to the Looney Tunes. It's not true to the Lola we saw in Space Jam, we've seen in the comics, we've seen in her appearance in Tweety's Big Flying Adventure kind of deal. She's not that Lola. And I do agree, she's not the Lola, but I think this Lola is funny. I really do. I really, really think she is funny. The only thing I think they haven't done yet is tried the lustful melt gag on her, which is the melting gag, where somebody kisses her, like let's say Bugs kisses her and she melts into a puddle. I hope they use that gag on her soon. I really do. But anyway, getting back to what I'm saying, just like with Ninja Turtles, not a lot of people like the show. They just don't feel the same connection to it as they do the original Looney Tunes, because it's not, in their eyes, as funny as the show is, it's not the Looney Tunes show. It's not the Looney Tunes they know, and that's why, like with the new Ninja Turtles show on Nickelodeon, it gets a mixed reaction. You take a look at, for example, another good example is Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated. For 2 years, 2 seasons, it also got a mixed reaction. Yes, I've given it credit, saying I've given it credit for going in places that the other shows have yet to go in, or have never gone in. I'll give it that credit. But a lot of people just didn't like it because it was not the Scooby-Doo show they knew. It was not the Scooby-Doo franchise they were accustomed to. The characters were not the characters they knew. It's like all of a sudden, right off the first episode, basically indicates that you have a couple, that you do have a romantic couple in the gang, but it's not Fred and Daphne, it's Velma and Shaggy. And then later on, you play with the whole Daphne-Fred deal. But the point is, the way they looked at it, some fans looked at it, it just was not Scooby-Doo. It was not the Mystery Inc. gang because of some of the things they did. The conflicts they made the characters go through. The romance, all the drama and stuff like that. And the way I looked at it, and Soren David even admitted to this, and I'm sure other fans like Believe It 1051 would agree, this version of Mystery Incorporated, the reason some people gave it a mixed reaction, and some people just flat out didn't like it, was basically for the fact that they weren't looking at Mystery Incorporated, they were not looking at Scooby-Doo. They were looking at an animated version of Twilight, is what they were looking at in some cases. Nothing more than an animated version of a teenage novel, romantic novel drama, or a teenage romance novel or drama romance novel, whatever you want to call it. Or basically just a animated version of Twilight, as they would say. Or even an animated version of Beautiful Creatures. That's how they looked at it. They didn't see it as anything else. They didn't see it as Scooby-Doo. They didn't see it as Mystery Incorporated. Yes, the one episode where Scooby goes into a dream and all of a sudden they're at the state finals and they're kind of drawn in the original way. Yes, there will be people who say, yes, that is good. That was the best way to do it. That was great on their part. Keep it up kind of deal. And I totally agree with that. I totally agree. That was a good homage to the original 1970s deals. I liked it, and I liked the twist they had at the end of it. But again, the point is, as good as some of the things were, as good as some of the directions that they went in was, the show still got a major league mixed reaction and dislike from longtime fans, because basically they looked at it not as Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated. They saw it as nothing more than an animated teenage drama, an animated version of Twilight and Beautiful Creatures. That's all they saw. That's all they saw, and that's why it, like Ninja Turtles, like the Looney Tunes show, has gotten mixed reactions. I mean, heck, even the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book is getting a mixed reaction because, last year at the New York Comic Con, Ian Flynn basically gave an idea, a sneak peek of what Princess Sally, Bunny Rabbit, Princess Sally would look like, and possibly characters like Bunny Rabbit, Antoine, and Rhoda and Nicole would look like after this crossover, after this second Genesis wave, after this Mecha Sally World Tour 2 Death Egg Mark II arc was said and done, basically what they would look like. And it too got a mixed reaction because some people are like, hey, it is Sally. She's just got more of an updated look now. That's cool. Well, others are like, oh, that's not Sally. That's just a Sega-fied version of her. And they're just doing that to make her appealing to the game fans. So, yeah, you have your haters and you have your favors. You have your haters for the new redesigns, and you have your lovers of the new redesign. So, it too has gotten a lot of backlash or mixed reactions. And even Man of Steel, as good as that movie is, and obviously, you just gotta, obviously people have said you gotta go and watch it more than once, maybe a second, maybe 2 times, to really get an understanding for it and really get a liking for it. Man of Steel has gotten mixed reactions. I mean, it even got criticism for the fact that, Perry White was going to be black in this movie. That Jimmy Olsen is now going to be Jenny. In this movie, it's not Jimmy, but Jenny Olsen, a girl. And so, so it's really just, it too got a mixed reaction despite the fact that it was good. Despite you have a majority of fans that say it was good. And that some say, yeah, it was good. It just took us like a second time seeing it to really get a liking and understanding for it. So yeah, it too got a bit of a mixed reaction from the public because of the way it was done. And that's basically how remakes. That's how basically a lot of fans feel. That's why remakes get mixed reactions. Why people give remakes and reboots mixed reactions, because it's not, in their opinion, being true to what the original source material was. I mean, heck, you want a good example? Last year, they had these promotional pictures, and they were even talking about it on shows like Today Show and Good Morning America and all that, where they were showing these stick figure versions or model versions of the Disney characters totally remade, totally done up as skinny out or skinned out models, if you know what I mean. And Disney, they had to respond by basically saying, look, nothing has happened. Nothing's really happened. The characters have not gone through these redesigns, these stick figure versions of the characters of Minnie and Mickey and Daisy and Cruella and Goofy and Tiana and Snow White. These are not permanent. These are just designs, promotional designs for a new clothing line, for a new product line that this department store has going on for the holidays. I mean, they even had to do a short, like I was saying, to show that nothing has changed. None of the characters have changed at all, and that the only way they've changed into these model-like characters, or mannequin model-like characters, fashion model characters, if you will, is by pixie dust by Tinkerbell. That's it. All they do is walk under like a fountain of under a waterfall or a water curtain of pixie dust, and poof, they turn into these models. So Disney basically had to do that as a rebuttal, as to say, hey, look, nothing's really changed, nothing's really happened. So you can kind of understand, again, why people always give reboots and remakes mixed reactions. Because to them, it's not always being true to the source material. And if it's not true to the source material, don't ruin it. Don't mess with it, kind of deal. And again, I can completely understand where they're coming from, but the truth is, you gotta let things be. Well, you may not like it. I mean, heck, like I've said, I've only caught a few glimpses of the new Ninja Turtles, a few episodes here and there, but the truth is, the reason I have not watched it as much is because, to me, I'm not used to seeing the Turtles hanging out with a teenage April O'Neil or a teenage Casey Jones or a teenage Karai. That's just me. And I'm not the only one. I mean, heck, even Transformers. When the movies came out, people were happy that they were live-action movies. They were happy that they were doing well at the box office. They were happy they were out. But even they got mixed reactions, because sometimes the characters were not staying true to what the vehicles looked like or to how they reacted. I mean, I'm sure Transformers Prime and Transformers Prime Beast Hunters gets a mixed reaction as well, despite the fact that it's good. That it's basically true to the Transformers. I may have not seen many episodes myself, but still, it is good. The storylines are good. They're great. But again, it's all about people having a mixed reaction to it. Get what I'm saying? And like I said, it's not the fact. And again, like I said, it's not the fact that people don't like what they're seeing. They just don't like the way it's being rebooted. They don't like the fact that studios and companies reboot these because they want to, because they feel they need to reboot it. They need to remake it. You take a look at the video games for Transformers War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. And people love these. These both got good positive reviews, but the problem was there were people that still did not like the fact that it was being rebooted the way it was. But let's not forget something. Despite the fact that it was being rebooted and we were getting characters in there that we'd seen later on in the original G1 show, the fact is they were doing us a favor because of the fact that we never really knew how Cybertron fell. We never really knew how the war was, if you know what I mean. So I will give them a plus on that. And again, you take a look at a show like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. People don't like everything I mentioned with the mixed reaction it got. More importantly, the fact that it turned out at the very end to be nothing more than a prequel, thanks to a change of the time-space continuum kind of deal. It's just mainly the fact, and I know I sound like a broken record, but it's mainly the fact that fans just did not like how the characters were being remade and being rebooted in this show. They didn't like how they were being remade and rebooted in Scooby-Doo or in Transformers Prime or the new Ninja Turtles or the new Looney Tunes, or what's going on in the Sonic comics and stuff like that. They did not like it. They don't. It's like to them, like, again, it's like the old saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But yet you do it, but yet you're fixing it anyway when it doesn't need to be. And that's how they look at it. I mean, My Little Pony Friendship and Magic, as popular as that show is, and believe me, it's damn popular, its spin-off movie and possible series, Equestria Girls, it's getting a mixed reaction. Yeah, Equestria Girls is getting a mixed reaction because it's like, why break it if it ain't, why fix it if it ain't broke, why fix it? Or why reboot it? Or why go in this direction, even if it's a movie? Because to them, it doesn't make sense. All you're doing is trying to capitalize on another franchise's success. And even Friendship and Magic has gotten mixed reactions. And like I said, despite how good it is and as popular it is, and despite the fact that you have thousands upon thousands of fans and hundreds upon hundreds of brony fans, despite all that, it too has gotten mixed reactions because it's not the My Little Pony people are used to seeing. It's not the My Little Pony that fans were used to seeing in the 80s. It's not the My Little Ponies they were used to seeing in the 90s. This is totally different. And there are some people that are giving it mixed reactions because even though they will acknowledge that it's good, even I acknowledge it's good, even though I've not seen a single episode as much, only seen a few clips here and there. Despite that fact, they still give it a mixed reaction because it's not being true to the original My Little Pony franchise. Get what I'm saying? The point is small or big or overall. When people hear of a franchise being rebooted or remade, they look at it with a questionable look and doubt. Because to them, if it's good, you don't need to remake it at all. Basically to them the question is, why remake it, why reboot it if it doesn't need it? I mean, heck, the reaction that Marvel and DC got for the fact that they rebooted both the universes has gotten mixed reactions. What the Spider-Man situation, the One More Day deal, got a huge mixed reaction. Mostly negative. So the point is, again, to them, to a lot of people, when they hear of a franchise being rebooted or remade, to them it's basically the old question of why fix it? If it's not broken, why fix it? And that's basically the question they have. It's like, the franchise isn't broken. The franchise is fine the way it is. You don't need to fix it. Why you want to fix it? Basically, that's what they're going by. The old phrase, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And again, I know I sound like a broken record here, but it's the truth. The flat-out truth. And that is why people have mixed reactions to remakes and reboots. So, that's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry this audio video was long. I had to get a lot off my chest. But comment down below. Take your time in listening to this. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll talk to y'all later.